What does a dream of watching someone being attacked mean? If you're in any way a normal person with a healthy level of compassion and empathy, you probably would wake up quickly from a dream of watching someone being attacked. There's a lot of emotions that go into such a dream image. Maybe it happened really quickly and you feel that you really can't do much about it. It's like being stuck watching a car wreck play out in front of you. In your mind, you keep playing the scene back again and again. At first, you are horrified, surprised, panicked, possibly even angry, upset, or sad. But eventually, certain themes come to mind when you dream of this type of image. Emotionally gripping dreams are usually meaningful. This is so powerful that it shows a lot of important truths about your waking life that you may be overlooking or actively suppressing. You have to understand that your dream life is simply a way for your subconscious to comment on and interact with your perception of your real or waking reality. Our real life, of course, is the things that we are conscious of in a day-to-day basis. I'm talking about the 16 hours or so that you are conscious of on any given day. Your subconscious has the rest of that time, and I'm talking about the 8 hours you are asleep. Dreams can point to very important truths that you haven't been picking up all along in your waking life. But for whatever reason, you cannot articulate, describe, or even come to grips with this information. You'd be surprised as to how many things in your waking life you don't connect with the things you see in your dream life. There seems to be a big collection, if you will, of dream imagery that somehow, some way, just doesn't get through to your day-to-day consciousness. Again, you've been picking up all this information on a subconscious level all along. But be that as it may, these dreams mean something. Otherwise, they wouldn't happen and you wouldn't remember them. And believe me, seeing someone being attacked makes for a memorable dream. Look beyond the violence. The first and almost instinctual dream interpretation of seeing someone being attacked is violence. We automatically believe that since you saw this in your dream, that somehow it could mean that somebody will be attacked in reality. 9 times out of 10, as traumatic as these dream imagery and symbols may be, they're not predictive. The typical dream is not a prophecy. This is good news, because if you've ever had a dream of the devil, or being raped, or witches and witchcraft, or zombies or cannibals, you may be so traumatized that you become fearful. Fear starts to hang over you, and you were thinking about what you could possibly do to avoid this scary prophecy. You're wondering about what could possibly be around the corner in your life because you've just had these traumatic dreams. The good news is that such horrible dream imagery rarely makes its way to reality. But what you should pay attention to is why your subconscious uses such strong symbology in the first place. Obviously, it's trying to get you to pay close attention to certain things happening in your life. You have to unpack what that violence means. Violence as a metaphor for control and possibility. What makes life worth living? I don't throw it out there as some sort of philosophical bait. I really want you to think about that question because most people don't even think about it. They automatically assume that they know what life means. And that's why they go about their day-to-day existence with all its feelings, challenges, and opportunities and stress, and they end up eating their own tails. I'm talking about people just basically going around in circles. They may feel frustrated. They may feel like it doesn't really matter. But in reality, if they're only aware of this pattern, they can understand that their dreams could mean certain realizations that lead to a heightened awareness of the control that they actually have over their lives. Do you have this perception? Do you get the impression that one day just blurs into the next and that there's really no rhyme, no reason for your daily existence? Sure, you may have goals, but after you achieve them, you don't really see the meaning beyond that point. You keep saying to yourself, okay, I have more, and there's this next deadline, the one after that, but what does it all really mean? And before you know it, you get stuck in your ways and you end up where you begin. Welcome to the club. When you see violence in your dream, your subconscious is trying to talk to you in terms of your ability to make changes in your life. It's using a psycho-spiritual glossary that indicates issues of control and the ability to map out your personal meaning. A lot of people are very eager to let this go. They say to themselves, well, I'm just a small person. I'm just another face in the crowd. When I die and it all dies with me, it really all wouldn't matter. And that's precisely the problem. Your subconscious, using violent, vivid, and attention-grabbing images, is trying to reach out to you to get to the core of your willingness to control and make sense of your life. Are you in control of your life? Violence in the real world has a direct effect on your immediate reality. You can bet the bank that when you harm somebody else, there will be a response. At the most basic level, the person will get hurt. Their autonomy will be violated. You have no right to push them. You have no right to break into their personal space. You have no right to enter their life on a physical and emotional level past their permission. And then once that happens, we have this intricate dance called law, culture, and tradition. And people start to change the way they look at you. You might even find yourself in front of a judge and pretty soon behind bars. But that's just the surface. That is just the tip of the iceberg. Your actions and the emotional state before that triggered that series of actions triggers a series of reactions. These are the things that change the direction of your life. This is how violence works. And your mind is using this mental symbology to get to the heart of your existence. You are waking up spiritually to the fact that you are in more control of your life than you give yourself credit for. You actually have a bigger say in how things play out in your day-to-day reality than you choose to be aware of. And it all boils down to cause and effect. It sounds so basic that in fact it rolls off the tongue. How many times have you heard older people, maybe an uncle or an aunt, telling you to be careful about your decisions? How many times have somebody you respected pulled you aside and told you, watch what you say? Well, they're not wasting their time. They're not grinding their wheels, however it may look. They're not just reciting some age-worn script passed on from generation to generation. No, they're giving you the truth. Sadly, when we're younger, and in many cases, even if we're trapped in old age, we're still young, emotionally and mentally deep down inside. We refuse to hear it. We don't want to listen. Deep down inside, we think we have it all figured out. And this is where the problem lies. We resign ourselves to a world where we feel we didn't make. We feel that we don't have a voice in this world. We feel trapped in it. One day just blurs into the next, and before we know it, it's time to get burned up and put into an urn, or alternatively, get put in a box and buried 6 feet under. How sad. Every second has an infinite number of possibilities. It contains the seed of many different existences and directions that you could live and countless realizations you can come up with, which can trigger many wonderful emotional states that can propel you to a wide range of realities. And it all boils down to your willingness to accept the power of cause and effect. You are always sending vibrations to the universe. Believe it or not, every single thought you have has an effect. There is no such thing as an action, whether seen or unseen, felt or unfelt, perceived or unperceived, that does not have an effect. If you don't believe me, think about the first person you fell in love with. How does it make you feel? Now think about that point in time where you're no longer in love with that person or they're no longer in love with you. How does that make you feel? Now be honest with yourself. How many times have you experienced that feeling? And what happened when you had those strong feelings? Chances are you were deciding on something. Chances are you were referencing that emotional state with something else that you're going through at that point in your life. In other words, all of this is real. This is not just a fanciful idea floating in the ether of your mind with absolutely no connection to the things that you can see, hear, touch, taste, and smell. Ideas have a way of triggering emotions. They're never neutral. Once our emotions are triggered, we tend to make decisions a certain way. And once that happens, we change our reality. Are you fully aware of how this works? Most importantly, do you take ownership of it? Understand that whatever people can see in your life ultimately begins with your mindset. Take ownership of your mindset. When you have a dream of watching someone being attacked violently or abusively, your subconscious is telling you that you have power over your reality. The violence is a metaphor for this power. But for you to unleash this personal potency, you have to first take responsibility. In other words, you need to own it. Are you unhappy in any way with your life? Do you feel you're not making enough money? Do you feel that you have a few extra pounds? Do you feel that your relationships tend to suck? Do you feel like people aren't really paying attention to you? You're not getting the kind of respect and attention you feel you deserve. Maybe you feel that up to that point, you've been hit with one disappointment after another. Maybe your childhood is less than stellar, or you feel uncomfortable with certain past memories from your past friendships. Whatever form it may take ownership of it. I know it sounds harsh because a lot of people are really going to have a tough time with what I'm about to say. But you did this all to yourself. You chose it. Now, you're probably thinking, how did I choose to be abused? How did I choose to be poor? To be born into a poor country? To be born in a struggling neighborhood? to be trapped in this area of the United States or elsewhere. Are you kidding me? I'm not going to choose this in a million years. But you have a lot more choice than you give yourself credit for, because you may not be able to choose the objective signals that the world throws your way, but you sure can choose how you respond. Time to kill the past. Violence is a strong image precisely because it wakes us up. When you see someone attacking or being attacked, you wake up. You pay attention because you know what will come next. Somebody may be sliced and diced by a knife, or getting shot through or beat up by a flurry of fists or something else. Anything can happen, and that's why you are sharp as a tack. You're paying attention. Since you're so focused at that point in time, seeing violence in all its horrific glory and emotional intensity can be a wonderful thing, just as anger is a gift. It can be a wake-up call. A wake-up call that you need because your subconscious is telling you, whatever it is you're struggling with in your life, you have to wake up. You have to take ownership, and you have to admit, I did this to myself. Now, at this point, people can come up with 1,000,001 excuses. They could say, well, I lost out in that great lottery of life. I was born in this country, or I was born in that class. I was born with this type of parents. The list goes on and on. You don't need me to remind you. But at the end of the day, if you are an adult, and if you have really decided to change and you're sick and tired of the same results over and over again, you have to take ownership. What exactly are you taking ownership of? You're taking ownership of the fact that the universe may throw you all sorts of stuff, and let's stipulate that a lot of it is unfair. Okay? Let's just get that out of the way. Nobody can change that. But you can always control how you respond. And here's the worst part. People are already born at the bottom of the heap. People are already born to bear the brunt of other people's disapproving stares and insults and jeers. But what do? They choose to make it worse. How? They choose to believe in luck. They choose to believe that the world is just one grand lottery. Sure, at some basic level it is, but it isn't a lottery when you take ownership of how you choose to respond. And by doing so, you take the first step to not make things worse. You refuse to become a victim. You celebrate whatever choices you make, no matter how faint the results may be. Why? Because you have actively chosen to take steps that eventually will lead to a different outcome. Sure, your family may be in a slum right now, but you chose to save a little bit of money. That's a victory. Instead of eating it up, wasting it on smokes, or doing what you normally do with it, you save it. It's not much, and then the next day you repeat that again. And the day after that, again and again, you make that choice. And the more you do it, the stronger your resolve becomes, and then you can have the will to invest, take risks, and grow that money. Poverty, just like victimhood and oppression, is a mindset. You're not a victim, and deep down inside, you know it. It's okay to be scared, but do not let your fear get the better of you. People remain defeated in their relationships and their personal realities because they are given into their fear. When you see that dream of people being attacked, it's as if you're stuck in your chair, and the only thing you can do is look at that person as they get their brains bashed in. You feel passive. And the more you see the person suffer and let out a blood-curdling scream, your helplessness grows. Seeing this person suffer through the attack, your sense of passivity attacks your very soul. So you're trapped in a loop. Your dream is telling you you don't have to be in this loop. You can choose to face your fears head on. Believe it or not, this is where lucid dreaming comes in. Have you ever had a lucid dream? Things seem so real in your dream until a small detail gives it all away. At the back of your mind, you start getting this growing suspicion that this is not reality. This is not your lived experience. This is not your waking life. In fact, it's all a dream. What happens when you get that realization? You start changing your dream. In reality, you're not as emotionally traumatized because you know it's a dream. It is not real. Instead, you start to look for interpretation. You try to relate one symbol after another to things that worry you that are playing out in your dreams. For example, you start to look for that animal symbol or signs from your dream to somehow relate to your emotions or someone you know or things that you're going through. Instead of a sensory world where you are experiencing things much like in your waking life, you look for conflict. You analyze this world in terms of one symbol after another and try to fit it all into your emotions, memories, and possibly looking for a warning. You might even look for implications regarding your health. That's how lucid dreaming works. You get a sense of freedom once you realize that you are watching a dream. This is not real because I don't see this as reality. That's how you take ownership of your dream. Guess what happens next? That sense of empowerment that you get doesn't end when you wake up. Instead, it can carry over to your waking life. If you feel that you're emotionally awake and empowered to the point that you can change whatever it is that's happening in your dream, this sense of power and ownership and responsibility can quickly carry over to your waking life. At the very least, you become more aware of the decisions that you make on a day-to-day basis that produce your reality. By taking control over the quality and the process of your choices, you may end up in a different place. Choices and decisions, after all, have consequences. Pay close attention to details to pick up context. Dreaming of someone being attacked is very contextual. You have to pay close attention to these little details. Where did it happen? Who else was there? What is it supposedly about? Is it about somebody being robbed? Is it about a person owing money to another person? Does the attacker even know the victim? Are they in a relationship? Is it some scene of domestic violence? And once you have picked apart the identities and the proper details, try to look at the big picture and what context it forms. The context is always you. Here's the cheat sheet for this type of dream. 9 times out of 10, when you see somebody being attacked, the point of the dream is for your subconscious to wake you up. So it's all about you at some point or another. At some level or other, it's about challenges that you are facing or opportunities that you choose to habitually ignore. Issues in romantic relationships. So when you see some sort of a hint of a domestic violence issue, pay close attention to your romantic relationships. Do you choose to be in control? Are you attracting the kind of person you want to be with? Or do you find yourself settling? If you're in a relationship, do you feel that you're being valued? Is your voice equally valid? Or do you think you have to play along to get along? This applies to your romantic relationships as it does to your family and to your friends. Work-related issues. If the violence takes place in some sort of job environment or a factory floor, pay attention to work issues. Are you doing something that makes you feel fulfilled? Does your work reflect the universal value of your existence? I know that sounds very grandiose, but deep down inside, that's the kind of work you should be doing. Everything that we choose to do should have an impact. Otherwise, we're just wasting our time. Sure, you're doing it for money. This, of course, is money that you need to get from day to day. But eventually, you cannot escape the fact that there are other options out there. Are you doing something that makes you feel alive? Are you doing something that makes you feel like you contribute to the world? Is it in line with your values? Is it in line with the person that you want to become? This is how you break the sense of passivity that most normal people have bought into at some level or other. Stop watching your life like some distant movie. The typical Hollywood movie has a lot of thrills, chills, and spills. It can be verbal and emotional in nature, or it can be like the typical movie by The Rock. Lots of actions and jokes here and there. It's a good time. But beyond entertainment is a void. It's a calm and deadening feeling where you can see your life flash before you into the screen, and there's really not much you can do about it because it's a one-way conversation. Is that what you really want? If that's not what you want, and you're looking for something more interactive, something that's more responsive to who you choose to be today, which may be different from tomorrow, then read what I've written above. The dream of violence directed at someone is really your subconscious trying to wake you up to your power of choice. You can change your life. You can change your relationships. They don't have to suck. Life does not have to be passive. You have a lot more control than you give yourself credit for. So start small. As Dr. Jordan Peterson says, you can start by cleaning your room. In other words, start with what you can control. Start with what you can immediately access right here, right now. And once you are able to do that, maybe move a few books here and there, clean a few shelves. The change is obvious. When you see this physical change in front of you, you are reminded of just how much power you truly have to effect change in areas that you can control. Start with the familiar. Start with what's close to you. See if what you're doing aligns with the values of the person you want to become. And once you see more results and when you see more changes, you become more confident and your sphere or your circle of influence and power starts to grow. This is how you reclaim your life. This is how You create meaning in your life. You do it in a purposeful and deliberate way.